Hello, everybody, and welcome to an intimate Linebreak podcast. It's just me and Fred today. I'm Alex, I should say. And we're going to move through a couple of things. We're going to start with some chat about the Aviva Premiership and who we think has impressed this week. Then we're going to cover the madness that was top 14 this week. And we're going to finish with a little TRC chat. Hello, Fred. How you doing?
Hi, Alex. I'm really good. Let's start with the Aviva Prem because let's keep the best for the end. So, we're watching. So basically, for the listeners, we're playing a fantasy rugby draft, and it's quite a useful basis to look at who played well at the weekend. Obviously, it doesn't tell you the whole story, but when you see that Jimmy Gopperth is number one in the points, you think that seems pretty right.
Playing out of position, Jimmy Gopperth is leading points.
Yes, Jimmy Gopperth, best 12 in the Premiership with 2 12s coming to Wasps. This is going to be interesting.
It is, because they've made two big name signings for the 12 position, and the guy that they've shoehorned in to cover until those people are ready is absolutely tearing it up.
And it's quite interesting that they brought Cipriani as to possibly be their number 110, and it doesn't seem to be like So the first game against Exeter, I thought he was quite poor. The second game I haven't seen fully. What did you think of Cipriani overall in the last two rounds?
He doesn't look like I would say when Cipriani's good, he's flashy. You know, you can when he's on fire, you can see it. He's doing lots of little pop passes and jumping all over the place and jinking, and he hasn't been bad, I don't think, but he certainly hasn't made his presence felt in the way that sort of towards the end of last year with Sale, you could really, like, he would get the ball and stuff would start to happen, and I don't think that's the case yet. Whether it will be in the future, I mean, Sale at the start of the year last year, it took him a while to actually start, building that momentum. It may be the same case with Wasps, but certainly, yeah, I mean, if Cipriani doesn't start firing well soon and Dai Young has to make a decision about putting Eastman or Beale in at 12, I would think the form player between Cipriani and Gopperth is Gopperth right now. And if Gopperth can keep doing the kind of stuff that he's doing at 12 at 10, then I could see Cipriani being shifted to number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking, worst case scenario, bring back one of the 10 number 10s that they've got rid of this season. So Rory Jackson, Alex Lazowski.
One of whom is having a much better season than the other at the moment.
Yeah, well, he also went to a much better club, but that's a whole different story.
It's very true. Yeah, no, I'd like to talk about both Lazowski and Jackson, actually. Let's start with Quins, just because I want to get this out of the way. Quins have not had a good start to the season at all, which I think would have been disappointing for Rory Jackson, but I don't know that he'll be too upset, because I think he is the 10 incumbent for when Nick Evans eventually resigns, which he's still a good player, but he's getting old. Like, he's got to be starting to think about retirement, and it could be next season, it could be at the end of this season. So I think Jackson will be happy biding his time. It is a hard time to be a Quinn player. I mean, it's a hard time to be a Quinn's fan, so it's got to be hard to be a Quinn player at the moment. Danny Kerr had a bit of a nightmare. Most of the people I want to talk about today have had really good weekends. Danny Kerr did not have a good game. I've been a bit critical about Kerr for a while, especially at club level. I think he's gotten a lot slower at the breakdown. Like, he spends a lot of time with the ball in his hands shouting at the referee about something rather than passing the ball. And when you're Danny Kerr and when you're known for these sniping runs, for that to have disappeared from your game not only makes you a less exciting player, it makes you a more vulnerable player when you do pass away. Like, if Danny Kerr has always been able to break early and surprise people, now they're able to get set and tackle him and disrupt him and get him angry, and he very definitely got angry this weekend. Like, he was not in a good place. They made the right choice to pull him off when they did, I think. If not, they should have done it a little earlier.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I think he's in a very difficult position at the moment, because everyone's talking about how good the new young nines are in England, because you've got Spencer coming, you've got Wigglesworth is still starting. Ben Youngs is on the bench for Leicester because Harrison is playing really well.
Yeah,
There's
you have a lot of
yeah,
people who are international players not starting at the moment. And
there's
when with Eddie Young, remembering sorry not Eddie, remembering what Eddie Jones said about year one, my team will be 90% the previous team. Year two, it'll be 70 to 50%, and then year three, year four, it'll be almost 90% new or something like that. Like that's got to be weighing on the heads of these incumbent older international players, especially when they're not performing at club level.
yeah, and absolutely, he's got so nine is probably the position of the most pressure at the moment because you've got quite a lot of talent coming through, which is really good for England, but it can be difficult on the minds of players like Danny Care, and he's known to be the X factor kind of player. So if the defense really knows how he plays and really manages to shut him down, then he's going to get proper shut down, and he's not going to be able to do what his little magic. Um, and also, did some people say there's a Queen's captain curse? Do you think that's a thing?
That was that was me. There is definitely. I feel like there's this curse of the Quinn's captaincy. You had, I would say, like for Rob Shaw, maybe less applied, but it definitely tired him out. I think loosened up and became more exciting around the park once he stopped captaining that squad. Then you had Marler had his pretty terrible year as Quinn's captain. And we'll see how it goes with Care now, but it's not been a strong start. It's still, I think, a bit short for there to be like there's a curse on it, but I think maybe something to do with the club culture or the way that you have to lead from the front can be exhausting. Care's a good player, and they might recover, they might bounce back. I'm still not sure about the decisions they made with promoting from within with the coaching staff. That's all I'll say on that for the moment.
100% think he is going to bounce back. I mean, he's got too much quality, and he doesn't seem like you were saying he got angry. It seems to be a bit out of character because he doesn't seem like the angry player, but because he is that X factor kind of nine, captain doesn't seem like the right role. I think he should be a much calmer player. I think number 9 is quite useful as a captain because they're close to the ref at all times. But they're busy trying to, force errors on the other. So it might not be the best player to go and have a chat with the ref, to be constantly on the ref's case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially in this weekend's, in the last game that happened, he was really at loggerheads with the opposition 9. And, normally 9s bicker and they slap and they swing handbags and you're sort of like, okay, whatever, the 9's doing what they're doing. But when the 9 is the captain, he's going to get extra scrutiny from the referee. He's going to be held to a higher standard. And certainly, I think as well with Marler being made captain, Marler is not a cool head. Like even having gone away and said that he's conquered himself. Like in his, I remember noting when he played in the preseason game against Glasgow, thinking that is not a calm man. Like you could see him doing off the ball stuff. Like Quins have, after Rob Shaw, who is probably one of the calmest people on the pitch. They've picked these sort of mercurial figures. I don't know whether they're going to try whether they're trying to install some edge by picking these people who are a little jagged around the edges, but that won't be proven until they make Mike Brown the captain, in which case I'll be like, this is what they're trying to do and they should stop.
You can't have a fullback as captain. It's just he's too far away from the ref. Like how can you captain a game from fullback? I mean it's happened to me when I was playing that our captain was the fullback. He went to the ref and said, okay, who's your pack leader? I'm going to talk to him because you're too far away.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that Mike Brown should be captain. It's just another case of that would be another edgy character. Like you can see things calm down when Horwill, like when Care left and Horwill was made captain, like everything felt like it calmed down a little bit. And Horwill, I think, is a good example of someone who is collected and they have that experience, but they're more collected. They're a lock. They don't have to be mercurial or exciting.
I'm not sure Horwell is that collected. I mean, he's a very, very physical player. He's have you seen how big he is? That's something different. But he's an absolute monster, and he has had quite a few cards, I think, in Australia. But right now, yeah, he seems like a decent choice of captain because he's past 30. He's got a ton of experience. He's played at every level. Horwell seems like a very easy decision for a captain for Quins.
Yeah. And from a player who hasn't performed very well to a player who is had an explosion in the last 2 weeks. Alex Lozowski for Saracens. Saracens once again displaying that they do not have a problem at depth, like anywhere that I can see. Like they keep bringing in these quality players who weren't getting chances at other clubs. In this case, Wasps, and just he's torn it up. He looks fantastic.
He's getting the points in. He seems quite collected. Yeah, he's just doing a good job.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another one of those things where Saracens, they're going to get raided a bit for the international matchups, but no concern. Bring Lozowski in. Farrell goes away. Yeah. He's going to keep going. It's going to look great.
And and he's not going to play on the back foot very much.
No. It's. I mean, yeah, it's a great club to play for. Like, you're going to get to play your best and probably favourite kind of rugby when you're with a team who is on the front foot and is really confident defensively, and I don't know, they play for each other. It seems like they've got a really great playing mentality and probably off the pitch mentality as well.
Yeah, I think there seems to be a sort of team culture. I mean, some people are gonna hate this word, but there seems to be a really strong team culture at Saracens. That was, I mean, what did they call themselves? The Wolf Pack or something like that? It was, that seems a bit obnoxious. And then when they started beating everyone, you thought, okay, maybe there's some sense into that.
Yeah, no, they've got something right, like, and they are still, based on their last two performances, and people were saying it before the start of the season, they've not done anything to dissuade anyone that they are the team to beat and probably the team who will take first place again in the Aviva Premiership. Like, they look quality, they look convincing and assured, and yeah, like you think like, okay, well, they'll play Exeter. We'll see. Like, Exeter is a danger team. Though some people have said that Exeter might slip off a bit this year. But Exeter are one of the danger teams. Let's see how they performed. I think they controlled that game really well. You could tell by the salt in the Slack chat from Sav that he wasn't happy with how controlled the game was. But they just look really impressive, and they've made another excellent recruitment decision with Sean Maitland, who is also just tearing up a storm. Looks fantastic. Great finish in the corner this weekend. Really ace. I don't know, have you caught much of Maitland's play?
No, not really. But what I remember from him is that it was a bit of a criticism that he was picked for the Lions tour, especially because he's not very Scottish. But yeah, and then on the tour in 2013, he played. I thought he was very good. He didn't look out of place at all. And then we kind of forgot about him ever since. I think he got a couple injuries maybe. And people didn't see him as a big signing for Saracens. So maybe he's proving everyone wrong at the moment.
Yeah, it's just another example of whatever Saracens are doing in their training camps and with their psychology and just approach to the game, they do manage to bring the best out of people, and get them loud. I mean, it was quite interesting. There was a moment this weekend where Brad Barrett got told by the referee that his players had to stop coming in and congratulating. So I think someone had won. I think it might have been Maro had won a turnover ball or in a ruck. Something good had happened, and the whole team sort of the Saracens thing. The whole team descends on the ruck and shouting and patting backs and everything, just like what you see Itoje doing at the international level. Shouting like we go again, just really loud in people's faces. And the referee had a word with Barrett and said, "You need to stop doing that."
So kind of like when somebody scores a try and they all run in and just give him a tap on the head.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's quite interesting actually. That shows that there's some energy.
Yeah,
in the squad.
Yeah, well, there's energy in the squad, but also like if the referees are going to start like punching down, okay, you can't do that. You need to just calm down a little bit. I wonder. I mean, I don't think it'll have a major impact on Sarries, but
yeah, don't you think it was rather because it's time consuming?
I mean, certainly it could be eating into time, and they do take a while doing it. But they sort of run in, they shout, they pat backs, and then they move away. I've never like in the past looked at it. I'll be watching from now on and thought like, okay, this is a way to kill off time. But yeah, it was certainly interesting to see it made as a comment by the referee in the first place.
Yeah, well, good. I didn't see that incident, but that's quite interesting that they would pick that up so strongly.
Yeah.
So I think we've gone through. We haven't talked about Roy Jackson.
We haven't. Well, not majorly. Like other than sort of saying like I think he's the 10 in waiting. I think he might be the starting 10 next year. It depends how the season goes and if Evans decides to retire. I think he's a quality player. I think he was a savvy hire by Quins. I'm not sure how well he'll perform this year if Quins doesn't pick themselves back up and start going again.
Yeah, what I wonder is if Quins was the right choice for him. So he was a bit blocked at Quins. What's interesting is that he basically blocked Andy Good from staying at Wasps because he was coming back from injury. He was playing really well straight away. He almost made the World Cup squad for Scotland. I think he was maybe a bit too fresh out of injury to make the squad. So Wasps said to Andy Good, well, we've got Gopeth and Jackson, so that we're not going to give you any game time. So do you want to be our coach? And then in the following year, he didn't. Gopeth played a lot because he was playing very well. And now they bring in Sips and they go, all right, sorry Rory, we don't really have a spot for you now. So if you're him, obviously you've got to go. Where do you go?
Yeah, and I think Quins may just have been the option as well. Like if he wants to stay in London, I suppose like Wasps were in Coventry, weren't they? So
well, not last season. They were still training in Acton.
Yeah, so maybe partially the decision to stay in London played into it. I wonder how he's feeling about it. I hope he sticks around. I think there's a lot of chat about like Quins doing a slow descent to relegation battles in a couple years. I think it could be true. I think it's getting overblown a little bit.
It could even be true this year, but I think relegation's between Bristol, Worcester, and Newcastle. But these teams are playing.
Bristol have come out the blocks looking.
Yeah, these teams are playing. Yeah, but it's not a. What I'm saying is not depending on how they're playing now, but on how I see them playing for an entire season rather.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that any of these teams are bad. I mean, Newcastle don't seem very good, but Bristol and Worcester seem pretty good at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that during a long season, a team like Quins probably has more chances of making it out of this bad situation than a team like Bristol. But we'll see. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's true, but also, not to dwell on Quins for a little, Quins does have a problem with that sort of mid-season gap where a bunch of people get pulled out of the squad and sent off to international duty. Though actually, I think this year that may not happen. As from what I was saying earlier, Eddie Jones making changes to the team, I think there are a lot of players on the Quins squad who would have been in the team sheet for sure a couple of years ago who might get passed over this time. So that might help them a bit in the middle of the season.
I mean, maybe for Marler and even for Kerr if he doesn't find form. But even if they don't start, there's no way that Robshaw and
Clifford will go.
And Clifford.
Jones really likes Brown.
Brown. All three are definitely going to be in the England squad. Even if they don't start, they're going to be there because they're quite essential.
I'd like to see Brown find his form again at club level. I think he struggled very much at club level last season. And he turns it on for at international level, though again if Good has another stormer of a season, like even at the end, towards the end of last season, I was sort of like Brown does fine, but I wonder what Good could do starting. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough about Quins. I'd like to talk briefly about Sale, post Cipriani Sale.
Yes. Yes. So
because
Dan Mugford, right?
So they brought in Dan Mugford as their 10, who's looked good, which is, I think, very reassuring for Sale because they looked strong last season. They looked like they were really building somewhere. And when I heard that Cipriani was going to be leaving Sale, I thought, because he was sort of this, again, he was that linchpin. He made everything seem to work. Everything seemed to buzz out around him. So I did wonder what a post-Cipriani Sale would look like and how they would perform. And so far, Dan Mugford has looked good. He's looked assured. I don't think he's got that same sort of X factor, but he's definitely doing enough to pull the strings and keep Sale playing. Like, they've looked good from what I've seen so far.
So can we say Sale is not the Just a Wasp Academy?
We could like maybe it's something else. I mean, also like Wasps. Wasps can't keep taking other people's players. Like they've already got so much quality all over the place. I wonder what their hiring will look like next year.
Well, I think they'll go towards the forwards because they've spent a lot of cash on backs and in the forwards. Have you seen this article about De Jong saying that they were looking for the next what's his name, Smith? They wanted a pure open side, and then they thought, right, we've got Haskell, we've got Young, we've got a couple other guys. They're going to step up. And also, there's no George Smith on the market.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other guy at this level.
Oh, and that's how they justified. That was why they bought Eastman, wasn't it?
Yeah. And that's when they thought, well, we've got a bit of extra cash that we kept for a 7. There's no amazing 7 on the market, so let's just get another 12.
That's true. So yeah, then maybe Wasps will start eyeing up sort of open sides next. That'll be very interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, because it'll massively depend on the fitness and on the performance of their back rowers, and right now it seems like they're doing very well. I took so back to fantasy. I thought that Harrison and Moriarty were playing against weaker teams, so I started them. Didn't start Guy Thompson, and regretted it instantly.
Yeah, no, he had a very good game. Fantastic. So Sale, I think exciting. Strong team. I think this year. Like if Mugford does continue to perform, then I think we'll see Sale, top 6. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to call it now, early. Top 6.
Sale top 6.
Sale top 6.
So are you thinking Saracens is favourite?
I think Saracens to win it, unless something horrific happins.
Then just under that, you've got I think you've got Wasps, Leicester, and Exeter.
And maybe wildcards Bath. Maybe if they can recover some of that form that they absolutely didn't have last season, they're looking a lot more composed. Like I think you can look at George Ford, how he looks right now when he's playing. He looks much more relaxed, much more calm, and far less panicked than he did last season. So if Bath can sort of find, under Blackadder with that new coaching system, if they can find some of their previous form, I think they can be competing at that top level as well.
Do you think not being coached by his dad is an improvement? That's a genuine question. I'm not having a dig at
I
him.
couldn't imagine being coached by my dad, and he didn't live with his dad, but with all the weird stuff that was happening behind doors, that's a lot of stuff that's very close to home. And yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not a professional sportsman, but I can't imagine that I would enjoy being coached by my father. I mean, and different people have very different relationships with their parents. It could be, if George Ford has been playing rugby since he was very young and basically being coached by his dad since he was...
he's definitely used to it. It's the same for Farrell. Yeah. But I think when it goes well, it's got to help. But when it doesn't go well, when it goes to shit, how do you get away from that? You can't be like, okay, I'm gonna, training's not going very well, or actually training's going alright, but games are not going well. Just gonna go home for a couple of days and chill, think about something else, and then you go home and all they're talking about is how shit you're doing.
Yeah,
because it's their problem as well.
No, it's very true, and yeah, I mean. It could be one of the reasons they're going well. It could be that a lot of people say Blackadder is a high quality coach. That can make a difference as well. But certainly Bath seem to be moving back towards that quality that they had the season before last.
Isn't he the coach that struggled that really struggled with the Crusaders?
Yeah, I don't know enough about Southern Hemisphere rugby, but I'm pretty sure I heard someone, when it was announced, they said he didn't have a good season with the Crusaders, but then before that he'd had a very good season.
Because the Crusaders have a ridiculous squad, and now they used to be the biggest team in Super Rugby. Now they're probably the 3rd or 4th best in New Zealand.
Mm. Well, right, yeah, we'll see. I mean. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. Generally, as a rule, when a Southern Hemisphere coach comes through to coach Northern Hemisphere rugby, the team changes in interesting ways and often positive ways. So, yeah, we'll see what comes of that. But so yeah, that's sort of a quick wrap up of not so quick wrap up of the Aviva Premiership and who we think has been performing well. What I'd like to talk about now, Fred, is the top 14 in what must be one of the most carded weekends that I've ever heard of. What did you make of this weekend's sort of top 14
Right.
games?
So I saw the so the first thing I saw was a few articles about the Grenoble Brive game, which is where 3 red cards came out. 3 direct red cards, 2 to Grenoble, 1 to Brive. There was an alleged eye gouging incident that let's be honest, looked very much intentional. So Citing Commission will take care of that, not Twitter. But yeah, so absolutely ridiculous game. It's usual top 14 stuff taken to the next level. And yeah, and you had 3 red cards, and I thought, okay, that's a pretty intense game. And then I watched all of the others, and there was another red card for Stade Français for Jules Plisson, who had a nightmare of a game. He basically just dropped his shoulder into. So there's a tackle on the sideline. The ref blows the whistle, I think, end of an advantage, something like that, and he just dives shoulder first into the back of a player.
Yeah.
Who, when the game had completely stopped, and you go like, and it didn't seem like he actually hurt him, but he could have made a lot of damage and got a pretty logical red card.
Yeah, I watched that replay a couple times, and I was trying to figure out if there was some kind of player logic that you miss in the replay. Like, did he think that the player hadn't slid out of touch? Did he not hear the whistle? Was he just diving on him to try and stop him rolling over? But honestly, it does look like he just sort of sees him, and he's just like, I'm going to drop the shoulder now and see what happens. Like, it looks deliberate, and it looks stupid, and it looks like the reaction of a player who's had a bad game. In much the same way that Leomanu for Quins was having a bad game and decided to throw a shoulder. Like, it just looks like one of those I'm angry and need to hit something reactions.
Yeah, or I'm not playing well. Maybe if I put a hit in, I'll be back on track.
Yeah,
there can be that sort of logic when it's kind of, when you stop playing a game, there's the kickoff. You think, if I make that first tackle, I'm in the game.
Yeah.
If I get one hit, one carry, one anything, I'm in the game. There's no all that. A little bit of the pressure is off, and you start playing normally. You stop thinking about fucking up. And he had just scored a try, finishing other people's work, but he had been missing the kicks so much that the number 9 Julien Dupri took over the kicking. So when you're not only is he he's not confident with his own kicking because he's not doing well, but the coach is also not confident in his kicking because he's telling the other player, right, you're not kicking anymore.
Yeah. No,
so,
I mean, he had a bad game.
Yeah, definitely had a terrible game that ended early with an absolutely ridiculously stupid card. And so it turned out that wasn't the only one in that weekend. So 19 cards, 15 yellows, 4 reds, all direct reds, which is quite incredible. And on the other side, 35 tries.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so it was a loose and open weekend for French rugby. Maybe the heat's getting to everyone.
So yeah, to put it in perspective, that was the 4th round. In round, let me get out the stats. In round 3, 24 tries, 11 cards, all yellows, I think. I cannot see the colours of the cards, but yeah, 24 tries, 11 cards. Second, 22 tries, 14 cards. And the third one, I cannot find. 1 second, it's loading. Probably, I think it was 24. Yeah, 24 tries, 11 cards as well. So 19 cards, including 4 reds, is quite a lot above, and 35 tries is a lot above the average.
So that's true. There's almost a positive trend, an increase in tries and an increase in cards. Like, interesting to see how that trend develops over the rest of the tournament.
I think it's the mix of the two that was very surprising. I mean, the 2 lowest scoring teams were Racing, the champion, 10 points only scored at Clermont. They brought in a 3rd string squad, which should
Mhm.
still be better than most top 14 sides. And Toulouse at home, 15 points, which is really shit, to be honest.
And there
Everyone
were
else scored 30 or 40 points.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I missed Po 13 away at Montpellier.
Po.
But Montpellier 41 points, La Rochelle 43, Bordeaux 40, Clermont 47, Grenoble 36 with 2 men down,
Wow.
and Toulon 32.
Yeah, so that's a high scoring weekend, and also there were some uncharacteristic wins away from home as well, weren't there?
Well, no, actually there was only one.
Oh, was there? I thought there was two.
Yeah, so there was only one. It's Toulon that was the big game, really, in terms of meaning, because Toulon, who are doing shit, they were beaten at home by Brive last week. Went to Toulouse, arguably the most successful club in world rugby, and beat them comfortably in Toulouse. Which is interesting because the Toulon coach was said to be playing for his job this weekend.
Yeah.
So 32 points in Toulouse. I think he's going to keep his job for another week at least.
Yeah. Is that is that sort of how because you never think of that sort of, I don't know, at with rugby you never think of what every game like a coach playing for his position. Is it easy could he just be dropped? Is his contract not secure in that way, or is it more sort of like?
Well, I haven't read his contract, to be honest, but his boss is a madman.
Yeah, no, he's.
So you've got to take that into account. He likes to talk to the press or shout at the press, depending on. Well, actually, I was going to say depending on his mood, but he shouts when he's happy. He shouts when he's not happy. So, and I don't think I've ever seen him in between.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to tell, but it did seem like this was a very important game for the coaching staff, or at least for the head coach, because someone else would have taken over. But I was already saying last week, I really don't like this mentality of saying that if you don't perform within 4 weeks of the season, you're out. Like, what? It negates all of the work done in pre-season. It makes the job for the next coach insanely hard. You've got to come in and say, right, either I'm changing the entire system and you've got 5 days to adapt, or I'm not changing the system, which means the only thing that's really changing is the human management, but you've just arrived, you don't know the guys. So it's obviously a losing situation. It's practically impossible to make a difference straight away.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It's one of those things where you can't discount building of momentum. It can take teams a while to knit, and then they can suddenly have a surge. Look at something again, like I've gone back to them a couple of times this podcast, but look at someone like Sale, who didn't look all that impressive for the first half of the season, and then they really started to ramp it up because they sort of stuff knitted and they went well and they finished strong.
And they were confident in the systems that they had and in the players that they had, and they kept growing.
Exactly. It's that win now because nothing else matters sort of mentality. It's that capitalist finance approach. You need to make the money and win immediately, otherwise you're gone. Which I hate that mentality in most things. I really don't like it in sport. So hopefully, I hope the coach manages to keep going.
And it's interesting on the for all of rugby, because it tells you where the game is going, if it's going that way or not. Because so Toulon for the last, let's say, 5 years have been accused of being a team of mercenaries. I think they haven't quite, I really don't like them, but I don't think they are just a team of mercenaries. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. They wouldn't play for each other. It's the same at Saracens. When they traditionally have a big import of South African players, which isn't really the case anymore. They have a few, but it's not like it used to be. And there is a cohesion. There is something that's working at Toulon, or was working at least, for quite a long time, where they were actually playing together, or are actually playing for each other. So because of the nature of the game of rugby, where you have to support your mate, you can't be it's not 15 self-employed people on the pitch, it's 15 employees of the club. if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
So you can't. There's a limit, and if you fire the coach after 4 weeks or 5 weeks in a season, the players are going to think, well, actually, I could be put on the bench for the rest of the season. I could be taken out if It doesn't seem like a climate of trust.
No, it's a
And that's
destabilizing act.
very important. Yeah, very important in rugby to have trust in the players and in the management.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Generally, I think the owner of Toulon, his behaviour is frowned upon. It's sort of not seen as the norm in a sort of similar way that like freaking out and firing your manager might be a bit more common in football or some other sport. So as long as it keeps being frowned upon, I don't think we have too much to worry about. But it's worrying just to have one or two people in any league sort of who behave like that. It's always dangerous.
And another thing, I think that the main difference between Bougelal and the rest is the fact that what he says is public rather than private. I think that's the biggest difference, because in the south of France, the mentality is not the same as in England, in the way that we, and I say we, I'm from the south of France, even though I'm much more English in that sense. And, no one queues. People push each other and get to the front. So I'm sure that in every single club, people shout at each other and they get angry and they make grand statements and everything. They just do it privately. They don't do it in front of the media. I think that's the biggest difference. And it happens every now and then. This weekend, that's something I just remembered. Do you know who the Bordeaux coach is? No. It's Raphael Ibanez.
Okay.
The ex French hooker.
Yes.
Who's been doing a very good job. He's been asked a couple questions about the Bayonne coach and a couple ex-players from him that played at Bordeaux. I think Guitoun and I can't remember who else. And he criticised them quite harshly in the press conference. Mm-hmm. His ex-players for making statements or something. It's really difficult because there was very little context to the video. Yeah. But it's interesting to see that he said, we had conversations. So this other player, whose name I can't remember, he said, actually it just came back, Félix Le Bourris. Mm-hmm. He said, when he was playing for Bordeaux, he thought he was better than the others, so he wasn't happy when he wasn't starting. And then when he was starting, he thought he was crap. So it was difficult for him to manage him. And obviously this sort of information never came out when he was at the club, because that's something that's internal. That's not something that the coach or the player goes out and tells everyone. That they have difficulty talking to each other. Yeah. And now that they're not in the same club, it comes out. So I think my very confused point that I'm trying to make right now is that the biggest difference between Toulon owner and the others is that everything he does is public, and that's probably hurting his club.
Yeah, it's dangerous stuff. I mean, yeah, any time that sort of backroom management stuff gets public, it not only, I guess, sort of airs dirty laundry, but it also opens everything up to. You can't put the cat back in the bag, basically. Like, people will start talking about things in that way, and it often adds more pressure to what was already a high pressure situation. So,
and it can cause problems for the career of the player, I'm thinking, because if you have this management, so you say out loud that you have a problem with this player in terms of personal management, he is thinking, right, now every manager in the country knows that. No one's going to want me at their club. Yeah. And even if that's not true, because even when players have notoriously big egos or are difficult to manage, other clubs still buy them. But that's got to be putting something extra pressure on the player. Yeah, absolutely. And a difficult feeling. So we were talking about top 14, and we just started talking about player management.
Oh, I mean, it's all a part of the game. It's something that we need to consider. But I think we should move off of the top 14 and do some quick coverage of the Rugby Championship and what's happened this weekend. So South Africa continue to be in a bit of a crisis. Australia recovering a little bit, but they didn't look they looked fine against South Africa, but they didn't look eminently confident, despite the commentators shouting, "The Wallabies are back, baby." It was a fine. What was it? Who was it? One of the pundits afterwards described it as two. It was a good game between two B tier teams.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was. Oh God, it was. The ex South Africa coach. His name has just left me.
The ex-coach.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that coached Italy as well.
Yes.
Oh God. Nick Mallett.
Mallett, yeah. So yeah, Nick Mallett described them as it was a match between two B tier teams, which I think maybe was a little bit harsh, but there's certainly neither team is performing as we've come to expect them to perform in the last 5 or 6 years, certainly.
Oh yeah, it is harsh, but it does. I'm not surprised that Mallett would say that, because he's been saying for quite a while that South Africa aren't a good team anymore. It's not. I don't think he was trying to make the headlines with that. I think he genuinely believes that. And,
I agree.
I tend to agree that South Africa has been much weaker in the last, say, 2-3 seasons.
Definitely, and it's interesting. I think for me, when the quota was initially brought in, there were a lot of people saying like, this is going to be a real problem. We're not going to have the best players on the team, and this is going to cause some serious issues for us. We're going to stop winning. But quite quickly already, the criticism is being leveled at the coaching staff rather than at the players. Certainly, like with the Lions performing as well as they do, and with so many Lions players in the South African team, that question is being asked: how are these players who performed incredibly well at sort of club level suffering so much against sort of often the same sort of opposition, or a lot of the same players that they faced at club level, and doing far, far worse. So it seems like Coates's really, really under the gun. You know, talking about people in danger of losing their jobs. I don't know how easy it would be to clear him out, but he definitely doesn't seem to be impressing fans. At least they don't seem happy with his performance at all.
I think you have a good point on the coaching, and it's the exact opposite of Argentina, who have a very average, if not below that, Super Rugby team, and with the exact same players, they have a very decent international team because they have different coaches.
Yeah, there was someone on the sub made an interesting point, like that if it's basically the same team wearing two different strips, why not have the same coaching team? Like, could you imagine? That it was quite a terrifying prospect. The idea of a team that doesn't go away to an international training camp to try a bunch of stuff and then have to go back and return to another system, to have a consistent, complete system, like a team that is always training and playing together in the same way, would make them a very dangerous squad. I think it'd be quite a radical thing, I think, to have both a manager for both club and international be the same.
Oh yeah.
But Argentina is probably one of the only places where you could do that without it being really disruptive.
Well, there's the Argentinian team, and there's the Japanese one as well.
Yes,
But for both, it's different coaching teams. I think the Sunwolves have a few more foreign players, not very many, but a few more. And also, we don't. What's interesting is that we don't know how much communication there is between the two coaching staffs. There could be none. It appears like there's very little because they're playing a different game. They just look a different team. It might be because they're playing for Argentina. That makes that gives them an extra something. But I think there's got to be more to it. So I think there's probably little communication between the two. But we could be completely wrong. Maybe they're using the same systems and working together. Both coaches. It could be just a facade.
Maybe. I mean, what you say about like that pride of playing for Argentina, I think there's one Argentinian team. Like when you play for the Jaguars, you are playing for Argentina. Like I think it would still be possible to whip up that kind of.
Partially, yeah, but never fully. There's no, there's no anthem. They're not playing against another country. They're not. It's got to be slightly different.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Actually, I hadn't thought of it fully.
Not necessarily very different, but a lot of players. I've said this last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm listening to a really interesting podcast called Rugby Coaches Corner,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the guests was talking about international level and what it takes to be an international 10. And he said that at a club level you'd have two options and you've got to make a quick decision. At a Premiership level you've got three options and you've got a your decision's got to be a split second faster.
Mm-hmm.
And at international level you've got five options and you've got another split second faster to make your decision. And that's roughly, despite the fact that in the Premiership for players like Farrell you basically have internationals all around you and international playing against you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still different. It's still a different level of intensity. It's still a different ball game.
Yeah, no, that's true. But do you think necessarily that you need to have a completely different training approach to it?
Oh no, I think it like you said, it needs to be the same systems. It needs to be the same logic. Maybe not the same people, but at least have these people talking to each other a lot.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Like some kind of like foundation, like these are the foundations of Argentinian rugby. This is what you build different strategies off of it, but here are your building blocks, or something along those lines.
Yeah, because you've got to adapt to Super Rugby. Super Rugby is not international rugby. It's probably it's less violent, but it's probably quicker.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's not that different, especially when you're playing against I think the New Zealand teams play very much like the All Blacks.
Yeah,
and that's something that helps the All
by
Blacks.
design. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if your guys all play for the Canes, the Highlanders, or the Chiefs, yeah, they're going to play a similar brand of rugby with the All Blacks, and they play really fast, really intelligent rugby, which is what they do in their clubs.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's an interesting prospect. It will be interesting to see what happens to Argentina again with these sort of comments being made, like how do they perform this well at this level and pretty poorly at this level. It will be interesting to see how they react to that kind of problem. And the same goes for South Africa. I'm curious, what do you think with the sort of dual away game, Argentina versus Australia? Who do you think is favoured going into that? Who do you think's got the momentum?
I think a lot of people are going to say Argentina, but they did take 50 points in New Zealand, so God, that's a difficult one to call.
Yeah, I think it'll be an exciting match, especially with that sort of both being away.
It should be. I expect a big game actually. I might actually go. I'm gonna try and see if I can get tickets, but why not? Yeah, I mean, it should be a brilliant game.
I think so. I think it'll be exciting because one win is enough for Australians to take a breath, but I think 2 wins would be enough for them to feel like maybe they were starting to steady the ship a little bit. So there'll be a lot of pressure on the Australian players, I think, to perform and to win.
Yeah, and the next game will be in Argentina. Am I right? This is officially an Australian home game.
Oh yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that, but it seems quite logical in the sense that they're struggling to fill the stadiums in Australia at the moment. So, they thought, let's fill up Twickenham, make a bit of cash, and then we'll go to Argentina.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's an exciting TRC. It's apart from the All Blacks sitting comfortably on their throne at the top, it's really everyone's getting down and dirty in those last 3 slots. Like it is very
interesting. It's probably technically the poorest the TRC's ever been in terms of quality of rugby, but definitely not in terms of interest. Yeah. Because teams are trying to build something. They're trying to survive as well. They get a lot of criticism. It's really, really interesting, and it's quite exciting in terms of rugby, actually.
Yeah, you can feel the ground moving beneath everyone as they play.
Yeah, except for the All Blacks smashing everyone.
Yeah, except for them who are just
it's really difficult to see them losing a game now.
No, they are. I mean, there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, it's really sad that we don't get to see England play New Zealand this year." I'm like, give England a little longer. Give it it won't. I don't think it'll. They're just playing at another level. Like they are undisputedly the best team. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh yeah. There's no doubt. I think they know it. They're careful with it. They think, well, it's not. Now's not the time to say we're the best. They don't. I don't think they fall into that trap. So as long as they don't, think that everything's won already, they are going to win everything.
Yeah, I would agree. Great. Well, Fred, I think that's that we've talked for quite a while, so I think that's probably a good
much
place
longer than we thought we could do with just 2 people.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to call it. But thank you everyone for listening. This is on our YouTube channel, and if you'd like to comment, you can either post something underneath the video itself, or you can send us a message on Twitter. I think we're at Linebreak Rugby. Sav will kill me if I got that wrong. Just get in touch. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about. If there's anything you'd like Fred to talk about from a coaching perspective, let us know. We'd love to do it. Cool. Until next week, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Fred, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
And see you later, guys.